Well, greetings, people of the internet. Unky Joe here, Unky Joe's Playhouse. That didn't look staged at all, did it? All right, we're coming to you today. I realized, looking back on some of my videos I did a few months ago, that I have not done a video about my rack and my network stack. And I know in a lot of the live streams I've been talking about 10 gig networking and 1 gig networking and how I'm struggling with this, that, and the other, and getting a QNAP or getting another Synology, etc., etc. So I thought what we'd do is go back to the basics and I'd show you the core of my network, which is my rack. So let's get the video started right now. Like I said, I was looking through my videos, and I know I'm doing live streams every Saturday now, and I'm just assuming that people have known how I have my rack set up. So what the video today is about is mainly we're going to focus on my networking stack and what it is I use to run my network at Unky Joe's Playhouse, what it is I use in my labs, etc., etc. And I think some of you might be surprised. So let's go take a look right now how I've got all that configured. So here we are inside our rack, and my internet connection is handled by the USG router made by Unifi or Ubiquiti. And I only have a 100 megabyte connection, so that's good. You can see my tough switch down there with all the blinking lights. And then two Unifi switches. I have a 24-port gigabit switch, and I also have a 10 gig switch that was donated by Sasha over in the UK. Most of my connections to my servers are direct attached copper. The workstations are the fiber connections you see there. And then the 10 gig connections over Ethernet are for my Synology NAS units. So the beauty of that 10 gig switch is you can use a combination of connectors on there. In other words, you're not tied down to Ethernet or fiber or direct attached copper. You can use with that SFP2 ports I have on there. It gives you a little more flexibility. And then you can see my other rack components down there, my Dell R620, my 720, and my two Dell R710 servers. So that's how I've got my rack configured right now. So I've decided to go back to an all Unifi stack in my rack. And I've had Unifi equipment in there for years. But here recently I've been using pfSense on an Odyssey single board computer. And pfSense is great, OpenSense is great, but part of the reason I got the Unifi stuff was for the pretty interface on it. Now, keep in mind this version of Unifi that I am running, the controller is version 6.1.71.0 or 6.1.71. Now, I am running this on a Windows, actually I'm running this software on Gandalf, which is my little HP thin client, 520 thin client from HP that has an AMD dual core processor in there. So I've got my domain controller running on that in Windows Server 2019, and then I have Unifi running as a just as a terminate and stay resident Java program running on that machine, because I'm a bang for the buck kind of guy, and really I don't have that big of an infrastructure for Unifi. I tried running Unifi in a Docker container, but I'm not familiar enough with Docker to be able to resolve problems when I encounter them with Unifi. So I just find, I'm a Windows guy, so I just find it's easier to set everything up in a Windows world. So that's what this controller is running on. So as you can see, I've also switched to the old interface for Unifi because I just prefer the look of that as opposed to the new one. So the first view I'm going to show you, it shows me everything is great. It shows my internet capacity. It shows me my latency throughput over here, my ISP load, my network load, how many switches I have, the average power consumption, the utilization on my Unifi security gateway, number of access points, number of clients, and number of guests. Then I'm not going to go to the map, but if we come down to devices, you'll see all the Unifi devices I have, and I've been accumulating these over several years. So the first thing I ever bought was the USG, Unifi Security Gateway. And back when I bought it, they were about $100. They were about $99. Now they're up to $140. But I love this little thing. I've only, even though I have gigabit, I have the ability to get gigabit internet. I only use 100 megabits. So this little switch works great for me. In my previous videos, I had the Unifi Security Gateway, the big one. Wasn't real impressed with it. This little one just does everything I need it to do. And then I started off with this as my access point. Then I have a switch over on the work desk behind me. It's a 8-port 60-watt switch, and actually only 4 of those ports are PoE. So be careful with that with Unifi or with Ubiquiti. Then I have a switch in the living room, which is sitting behind my TV and my entertainment center. This is the switch that wires my bedroom, my master bedroom, my spouse's office, and our home theater setup. And that is a Unifi, again, another 8-port, 60-watt power over Ethernet switch. Then I have an access point for the living room for that side of the house. And then this is the switch that I originally started off with. That's the gigabit switch from Unifi. That's my main switch. And then this switch, which was donated to us from Sasha out over in the UK at Blue Telecoms, is our 10 gig rack switch. So you can see I've got pretty much all these ports populated. Some are only running at 100 megabits. Those are usually my iDRAC interfaces. Then I've got a bunch of others running at gigabit speed. Now the one switch that doesn't show on here is a tough switch, which is a PoE switch that was also donated by Sasha from over in the UK, and that runs my PoE power over Ethernet for my not my webcams, but my security cameras. And that switch does not have a Unifi interface, and until that switch breaks, I have no plans of replacing it with a PoE switch. But so there's all my switches, all my access points. And here's one of the reasons I like to run a Unifi environment, because at a glance it gives you a nice little interface, tells you where your data is going out on the internet, etc. You can even categorize this. So it's not a really detailed report, but it gives you an idea of where your data is going and what apps are using it, and then actually if you've got it set up, what clients or users are using the most of your bandwidth. And you can see the TV in our bedroom uses most of the bandwidth, because frankly that's where I watch most of my YouTube videos, is on the TV in the bedroom back there, and then the media room is the next used device, etc. So it gives you a good idea of what's going on in your network, where all your bandwidth is going to. And then you can go out and you can see your wireless clients, you can see your wired clients, all listed by MAC address. And you can even, there's a way to label all these within the switch unit. So if I were to click on it, I can actually, I believe, give this a label under configuration. Yeah, I can give it an alias. So one of these days I'll get off my lazy rear end and go out there and I'll actually see what all these items are and label them, so that I'd be able at a glance to see it in this activity log. And I can do it by wireless or by wired devices, either one. And I showed you statistics. And then you have the insights. These are other access points. These are neighboring access points around me. So not only can I see my wireless, but I can see other users around me and what channels they're using. I can get client history, when it was first seen, last seen, upload and downloads, totals, who the manufacturer is, the MAC address. Port forward stats. I don't have any ports forwarded on here right now, but if I did, you could see them on there. And then it currently, I have threat management disabled. It does have IPS-IDS on the Unifi, but it does slow down the USG a bit. So I don't opt to turn that on. I don't have a real big attack surface here, so I just really don't worry about it. Then my alerts are right here. There are no alerts right now. And then the big one is, where you set your site name and the territory where you're at, your default time zone, etc. And then right now I've only got one wireless network set up. I don't really have my stuff segmented. I keep everything on one network. I know it's probably not best practice, but it's just the way I have it set up for now because my network is in a constant state of flux. But one of the other reasons I use the Unifi equipment is because the way it handles VLANs and guest networks and corporate networks and keeps them all separate. So I'm able to actually I created another network here for my lab that's on the 20 subnet, and I could even have a DHCP server out here. Although I'm not a big fan of the Unifi DHCP server, it does allow me to easily set up VLANs and separate networks with Unifi. I'm not a big fan of having to set up VLANs and trunk lines, and this way with Unifi it's kind of set it and forget it. You don't have to worry about it once you get it set up. You just boom, click a few mouse buttons and you're done. So in a home network environment or a small business, something like a church or a small accounting or engineering firm, it's ideal. This kind of equipment, you just can't beat it for the price. And then routing and firewall, I just have it set to defaults right now, and I have no port forwarding on. I could turn on GeoIP filtering, which would prevent connections coming in from certain locations, but again, that takes away from some of your bandwidth on the USG. Threat management, I don't have that turned on as well. And actually, it's still the intrusion prevention is still in beta, and it says right here it'll cut if you enable the threat management, it'll cut your throughput to a maximum of 85 megabits per second. So I just choose not to have it turned on. Deep packet inspection I do have turned on though, so that I can see where items are going. And then on the controller end, you also have the ability to back up your controller here, down here, which I do. I always I always do a backup once a week of my controller. But once you set up the Unifi controller, your job is done. That's all there is to it. And you don't even have to leave this software running once you get your Unifi stack set up. You only need to have this software running, the controller that is, to monitor and so forth. So in theory, once you get your Unifi stack set up, that's all there is to it. You don't need to have the software running all the time. I used to run it on my local machine, and I would just start and stop it when I wanted to make changes or view something. But now I leave it up and running. It's a trivial amount of RAM and CPU it takes up on that tiny little T520 thin client from HP, and I just leave it running. It just makes it easier to get information on there back and forth. So, those of you that are new to the channel who didn't know, I run Unifi products, Ubiquiti products. Now you know. Now you know how I have my rack configured. I like the Unifi products. I've been burned by Ubiquiti on a switch before, and I've had a client burned, which means basically we were not able to get any parts to repair an edge switch after the warranty period had expired, and we could get no help out of Ubiquiti whatsoever. But that was really the only bad things I've experienced from them. Now a lot of people are on their high horse because Ubiquiti's had a data breach. Look, all companies have data breaches. I'll concede the point that Ubiquiti probably could have handled the data breach a lot better. We still don't know for sure what all they got. But for the prosumer, home user, small to medium business, If you want to set it and forget it kind of network, then you can't go wrong with Unifi. I mean, these components I've had in my rack for over 2 years now, and they're still going strong. And you know, if one of them were to fail, I could, you know, I would either one, I would repair it myself, or I'd find someone confident or competent in electronics to repair it for me. Now, most of my 10 gig connections to my servers are done with the old copper cables, the thicker 10 gig cables, DACE, direct attached copper, I think is what they call them, DAC cables, and they're pretty cheap too. And then to my workstations, I have, to this workstation and the one over there, I have fiber connections. And why did I run fiber? Because the transceivers for fiber are only $20, and the fiber cables were cheap. And plus, I wanted to play around with fiber. And so now I guess I got a fiber connection. So I got a fiber connection here, got a fiber connection there, and then eventually I'm going to have to get a 10 gig switch over here once the price allows me to, so that I can have some 10 gig connections on my workbench. The only use I have, honestly, for 10 gig is between my NAS units and my workstations, because I do video editing, so I like a fast connection. But I'm going to tell you right now, this configuration I have, including the Unifi security gateway, the little one I have, I'm perfectly happy and content with. I don't need all the power of a pfSense or an OpenSense firewall. I don't really host anything locally anymore other than my NAS. And if I know I'm going to need to get into my NAS remotely, I only open the ports when I leave to go to a client site. So it's not something I leave open and share with people all the time. I do have a Plex server that I share with other people, but other than that, you know, what you see there suits my needs very well. And I gotta admit, I like the pretty interface on Unifi, being able to go look at it at a glance and see everything on there. Now, what I've been terrible with is housekeeping. In other words, keeping track of everything that's plugged in where. Because, you know, when you've got a lab network, you're moving stuff around all the time. But I've put it on my task list to go out there and label every connection I have, and to look up every MAC address of every device on my network, so that I can look at that interface, which is very handy. If you keep everything labeled properly, when you have some rogue device come out on your network, you'll be able to find a lot easier. So I recommend you label your network. Do a better job than I did. So would I recommend Unifi to you if you're a home lab user? And yeah, I would, strongly. My second choice would be something like Netgear, or you can never go wrong with Cisco, but you're going to pay a premium price. And the beauty of the Unifi products is you don't have these recurring subscriptions. You don't have to have everything put onto the cloud to host it. Like I say, I run my own Unifi controller right here under Windows. You can run it under Linux. You can run it in a Docker container. I don't recommend their little cloud switches. And if you get a Unifi Dream Machine, it has the controller software built into it. But, you know, do a little research on your product. That product's $400. I just didn't see the need of spending $400 for it. And I put it on eBay and resold it. And I'm fine with the little Unifi security gateway. But keep in mind, if you try to turn on IDS or IPS, intrusion detection or intrusion prevention, you're going to lose your bandwidth. You're going to be limited to 85 megabits up and down. So just be aware of that. But I would rate it a buy. I would go out, I would still to this day buy Ubiquity products as long as they keep making good products. I can't speak for the current models of things, and I wish they would put out an 8-port PoE switch that's actually 8 ports powered. You know what I'm saying? I haven't used any of their newer switches, but I think I'm going to have to get one here for my workbench eventually, so I'll let you know. But anyway, we hope you found the video entertaining and informative. As always, please give us a thumbs up down below if you liked it. Leave your comments down in the comments section. Donate if you're so inclined. We take PayPal, Patreon, and the YouTube join function. It helps to keep the lights on and to get new products in here to evaluate. And I'll keep you updated in the future as to my network stack. But, you know, I keep forgetting sometimes that we're getting new subscribers every day, and I greatly appreciate that. We're still trying to get to 10,000 by June 1st. Hopefully we can meet that goal. If not, we'll just move it back to the end of June, and then maybe that'll happen. But anyway, thanks again for coming to see us. Come see us again, and don't forget, we'll see all of you on the other side.